She
She is. She used to be a reporter for Watermail. Showing you.
the old people's home for
The what?
old people's home for teenagers. And, you know, from the ABC. Hello.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
are you declaring a conflict in this conversation? You're a former bloody performer.
Over, I'm not in this financial, in the last one. So
Doesn't matter. You've got a relationship.
no, we don't. You don't even say you want relationships. You don't know what you want. So, and I actually. Hello.
Welcome everyone to tonight's public forum for Thursday, the 16th of April, 2026. I must start by mentioning recording and live streaming. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded under Council's Code of Meeting Practice. By attending, you consent to your image and voice being recorded and published on Albury City's website. Members of the public are also reminded to refrain from making defamatory comments or disclosing personal information. Albury City is not responsible for comments made by individuals. Recordings and live streams are protected by copyright and owned by Albury City. No part may be copied, recorded, reproduced or transmitted without the prior written consent of the CEO. PF2, conflict of interest declarations received. There are no conflict of interest declarations received at this point. Do I have any late submissions? No, and I have Councillor Jeff Hudson on the screen above, so he's present in this meeting. Okay, well, moving right along. We have 4 speakers tonight. PF 3.1, Sean Field, speaking to CM 14.3, the draft financial assistance budget 26-27, speaking against the recommendation. Sean, if you could come to the lectern, please.
Mayor, councillors, CEO, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Forgive me for the speed of this delivery. There's a bit to get through, but hopefully you all absorb it. So I want to begin by acknowledging the context you're operating in. It's not a simple decision because Hothouse Theatre is before this council. Its decision determines Hothouse's future. As chair with a finance background in restructuring, turnaround of distressed businesses, I'm qualified to give you the true picture of the proposed funding outcome. Albury's current recommendation is zero. With Wodonga zero position, both cities are removing the entire funding base on which viability and future programming exists. If both councils withdraw support, the outcome is not a smaller version of Hothouse. The outcome is that Hothouse will need to vacate the butter factory by the end of June, and by Jan 27 will be perilously close to shutting down. It's not a theoretical risk, it's a near-term governance reality. Albury's 35,000 is a signal that anchors a much larger investment. 352,000 from both states flowing into this region, 10 times that investment. A zero recommendation sends a signal to Macquarie Street that Albury does not regard this organisation as worth backing, and that signal will be heard. Hothouse has invested directly into infrastructure, Albury's asset. A refurbishment achieved only by a state arts grant. Without Hothouse, no investment has been achieved. Hothouse has invested $70,000 into the farmhouse and rehearsal infrastructure from its own reserves, Albury Council's own asset. Council has identified approximately $13,000 per year in in-kind support through the lease. Hothouse's $70K investment is the equivalent of more than 5 times 5 years of Council's in-kind contribution. Only in 2025 did that amortisation of our investment occur via the in-kind contribution. So it's not the behaviour of a dependent organisation. It's the behaviour of a co-investor in a shared civic asset. So council already makes decisions to support community assets or projects where there's long-term value, interest-free loans, tens and tens of thousands of dollars in foregone interest. So the principle's established. Council invests in community outcomes where it sees long-term value. Hothouse sits squarely within that same principle. It's asking to be considered consistently. So the Butter Factory Theatre sits in Wodonga. But Hothouse is not just a Wodonga organisation. It's more than half of its audiences come from Albury, a shared regional cultural asset that materially serves the Albury community. Under the Two Cities, One Community framework, both cities have committed to shared investment in assets to serve the region across the border. Hothouse is exactly that kind of asset. If not this, then what does that commitment apply to? So there's an agreed exchange of value in the greenhouse. under the tenancy arrangements for the program, council's contribution is explicitly linked to the delivery of community programs. It's not a discretionary grant. It's part of an agreed framework where community benefit and financial contribution are connected. So the current position proposed by council staff breaks that alignment. So there's been a view that Hothouse needs to change its model from both sides of the river. So that change is already underway. New leadership, restructured operating model, expanded commercial activity, stronger partnerships and community participation. But transitions require stability to succeed. Withdrawing now does not accelerate change. And the strength of the leadership is already visible. Recent event with Richard Roxburgh is a clear example. In more than 4 decades, no one has been able to bring him home in this way to support Hothouse and regional arts. So that's happened now because of the calibre of leadership in this room. The question is whether that direction is supported or stopped. So over the past 10 years, Hothouse has delivered more than 34,000 main stage audience attendances, over 8,000 additional attendees through non-main stage events, 15 professional productions made here in this community, nearly 2,500 subsidised tickets, a national residency program supporting more than 500 artists in this community. So these are sustained outcomes, not one-off activities. But the more important question is this: what replaces it? So if Hothouse is lost, the region loses something that took 30 years to build. Professional regional theatre companies don't come back. Hothouse turns 30 next year. A major program has already been developed, including auditions last weekend held with local actors in the centrepiece production for 2027, a theatre classic which Marion Potts will direct. Lindy Hume has been planning to bring together the Albury Wodonga Symphony Orchestra, local children's and adult choirs, Flying Fruit Fly Circus and Opera Australia as collaborators on a large-scale community opera here in Albury, Wodonga. So these 2 productions alone offer upward of 150 opportunities for local performers to fill large and small roles in major Hothouse landmarks in 2027, 1 year alone. So unique experiences and developing new skills by working alongside national and internationally recognised professionals. So it's a step change moment. It warrants both councils as partners, and investment supports the delivery of this activity. So we're asking Albury City to reinstate the 35,000 in operational funding, structured as a multi-year commitment. It supports a modest structured contribution to support a transition underway, one we're prepared to commit via funding principles and agreed funding principles. So at this council's budget meeting last year, a councillor who supported a reduction still said publicly it would be short-sighted not to recognise the multiplying effect of Hothouse's investment in this community. You now have the opportunity to act on that insight, not repeat it, and we ask you to hold the line for the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr Field. Question, Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor, to the Speaker. Thank you for your presentation. You said that your couple of figures, you're asking for the funding of 35,000 per year to be reinstated. And you also mentioned refurbishment of $70,000 that you had put in. Can you confirm, was that 2025?
Is back in, that's been from 2020 through to 2024, I think the last investment was, yeah.
Over 4 years from Hothouse?
Is correct, yeah.
Spent any other monies on, you talked about investing in our infrastructure. Have there been any other investments by Hothouse in our infrastructure?
I was referring to the investment in that infrastructure at out of Wonga Wetlands. Yeah. Pleasure.
Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you for your presentation this evening, Sean. You'd be very well aware that two other have been made recommended for financial assistance, that being Food Share and Murray Arts, which also received a substantial cut to their original ask. Is Hothouse flexible, I suppose, with that level of ask, and have you had that conversation with Albury City?
No, we haven't had the conversation. I mean, obviously it depends on the outcomes on both sides of the river, really, in terms of our capacity going forward and what that means for the butter factory utilisation and then obviously viability after that. So,
just to follow up, you also mentioned hothouse removal from the butter factory altogether. So that's the very true reality that hothouse are currently facing if they don't receive funding from Albury and Wodonga councils.
That's correct. It's just important to note that hothouse resized last year. At the end of last year, we took responsible action to correct the organisation. So there's no more downscaling, resizing opportunities available. Otherwise, it impacts the investment from both of our state funders as well. And similarly, from a balance sheet perspective, there's agreed mechanisms around reserves, but our reserves have obviously been impacted given COVID and post-COVID audiences too. So we're not as materially strong as what's been presented in the financials through the grant application.
Elaborate a little bit. Would you be able to elaborate a little bit on what that downsizing looked like and where you're at today in regards to staff and allocations?
Yeah, we had to cut back from, obviously we had a CEO in the organisation at that point in time. We went out and recruited new creative leadership, which is at 0.5 FTE. We removed a full-time business manager. We've replaced that with a 0.6 executive producer / GM. We've got another full-time was replaced by a 0.6 full-time staff. So we've roughly gone from, I think it's around about 4 to less than 3 FTEs. Pretty skinny.
Councillor Cameron?
What intelligence do you have about the intentions of Wodonga Council? What do you know about the intentions of Wodonga Council?
Well, the intentions are currently zero. So we're obviously having conversations with Wodonga Council in relation to the risk of leaving the butter factory theatre, as well as the worst case scenario.
You'd be aware, I presume you'd be aware of Council's challenging financial state currently. From what we were told was a deficit of 11 million during the budget process last year, to finding out that it's significantly more. I think some hard decisions will be made that are going to hurt a lot of people and a lot of friends of mine. I'm not foreshadowing rejecting what you're saying, and I'd like to explore Councillor Callaghan's approach, but I would be dishonest if I didn't say that things are very dire. Thank you.
Councillor Gleichen?
Thank you. It's really a follow-up to a question from Councillor Callaghan, if I may, Mr. Mayor. It's with reference to the, I think the wording was having to withdraw from the butter factory. If you could clarify, please, if Wodonga were not, if you were to receive $35,000, would that mean that you would be able to stay in the butter factory, albeit that it might be paid for by Albury as opposed to Wodonga, or is there something more than that?
No, that $35,000 alone wouldn't sustain that outcome.
The cost to be able to occupy, the butter factory.
Butter factory costs, well, the cost savings by leaving is $74,000. Yeah.
Councillor Baker?
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Sean. Just a question about last week's event, which I believe was an outstanding success, the Richard Roxburgh event, which was also in Albury. Did you do well financially out of that? Is that the start of commercially successful operations? Because I know not every play is a money spinner, but have you got things lined up that will help to fund the organisation into the future?
That's a good question, but obviously, that's probably in play. I think what we've tabled as 2027 is part of that. But losing this funding obviously places the organisation under significant stress and wouldn't be able to deliver those things. The financial outcome of Roxburgh, I'm not aware of that yet. Haven't been given the figures. But I mean, obviously, an event like that is pretty rare. We'd like to do that, 2 or 3 times a year. But I think, just to give you context, operating in a small theatre like the Butter Factory, with the investment or loss of investment, and even if state funding wasn't there, a seat at the theatre would be $162 a seat. So, it removes the social benefit of what's delivered through the organisation and the Butter Factory to both communities.
Councillor King.
Thank you for your presentation, Sean. Could you elaborate the state funding arrangement that exists and what you're able to spend that funding on, and how different is it between the 2 states?
Yeah, look, Create New South Wales fund Hothouse to $172,000 and Creative Vic to $180,000. So Create New South Wales is a 4-year multi-year investment. Creative Vic has just been renewed this year, and it's only a 2-year investment. So at the end of 2 years, obviously, we've got to prove to Creative Vic that we're an organisation that's worth investing into. Both of those organisations fund the organisation. So they fund the organisation, the infrastructure, the people, the resources to deliver the creative programs. So then it's on the Hothouse, to obviously bring programming to the community and do its best to make sure that, we don't lose a lot of any money and break even, or, even better on a commercial basis, make some money out of it. But
Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor Mac. Just a question in regards to funding for, if we can equate what you turn every dollar into, I suppose, with regard to return on community investment.
Look, it's a good question. Obviously, the 10 times 35,000 is 10 times in both state funding, and that's here in this region. People work here, live here, spend here. Outside of that, we've looked at ticket sales revenue alone. It's around $2.11 per dollar investment. That doesn't include bar or accommodation or restaurants or anything like that, people frequent pre or post events. So, yeah, it's a difficult one to quantify, but.
Okay, just one from me, Mr. Field, before you leave. The Wodonga Council say they committed a lot of money into capital improvements in the Butter Factory. Is that correct? Was it in the order of $1 million or something?
Yeah, that's correct. They acquired that through a Vic state funding grant that did contribute to that funding or to that capital improvement. Yeah.
And what you're saying, there's no certainty that they will, or you have no certainty in the leasing arrangement or paying the lease. Is that what you said, or of the Butter Factory?
We have a concessionary lease with Wodonga Council.
Yeah, but
So
the payment, the 35 from both councils, is contingent also on the ongoing leasing of that facility.
well, it certainly would be from the Wodonga side if they're providing funding towards the operation of Hothouse, and it would be contingent on staying in the Butter Factory.
Yeah.
That's I'm only just assuming that, but it'd be a fairly strong assumption.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. No worries. No further questions. We've got Annie Gifford, CM 14.3, Draft Financial Assistance Budget 26-27, speaking against the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, councillors, for the opportunity to speak in support of Hothouse and their request to reinstate $35,000 in operational funding for 2026-27. I'm a proudly public high school drama teacher who spent the last 20 years at James Fallon High School, posted here as a targeted graduate in 2007. Hothouse was transformative in showing me that I could find a community of my people here. Put most plainly, the shows I saw back then and the people I saw them with made me want to live here. And I know there's many artists that live in our community that feel the same way. I've also directed local productions, run local youth theatre festivals, and for the last decade have run Riverina Drama Camp, making high quality theatre education accessible to rural, remote and financially disadvantaged teens. It's been my life's work to make arts education opportunities for young people, not just the jurisdiction of the wealthy and well-connected, which in this country it sadly often is. I see the talent that comes up every year at drama camp, some of the most isolated and remote schools in our region, and it blows me away. Imagination and raw talent can come from anywhere, but so many of our young people never get to learn they even have it because they don't have the space to discover it and have it nurtured. Without recurrent public funding, that camp's 40-year run comes to an end. Families simply can't afford to pay the unsubsidised cost. My favourite experiences of seeing theatre have been at Hot House. I can't overstate the joy I feel watching an audience of high school students see live theatre for the first time, many of whom couldn't afford to see a show without the subsidised matinee ticket costs that Hot House have always made a priority. They come out changed, opening their eyes, hearts and dreams up to a bigger possible world. Once this spark is ignited, then Hot House understands that it has an obligation to nurture that spark, allow these future artists the space to play and discover these possible selves, building connections with the theatre and arts communities beyond the border by bringing them here, proving to our young people that maybe they don't have to leave their home and families to seek a life in the arts, or if they want to, they'll have a foundation of support and connection, which makes them feel like they can leave and can thrive. I've benefited from it personally, having past artistic director Lynn Wallace see my potential and invest in it. Among other projects, I ran Hot House's studio ensemble, the year of their co-production with Sport for Jove, The River at the End of the Road. Watching director Damien Ryan work with our cast of professional actors and local young people was the greatest professional development I have ever received in my working life. And I cannot tell you how painfully rare that is in education. Hot House is so integral to the tapestry of our arts community that it's hard to encapsulate the impact I've seen it have on the young people in my care. To give you a snapshot, I had a squeeze at my Instagram feed this morning. I saw Grace Rouvray recording an audiobook for a memoir. Graduating in 2007, she was involved in countless Hot House initiatives at school. More recently, she received a Celsius grant with Hot House Theatre and co-wrote and performed the play The Plan and Other Plans as part of a Hot House season. I saw William Phillips, graduated 2020, having just graduated from University of Wollongong and NIDA. I know he's returning home soon as part of the Hot House Groundwork Artists Mentoring Program. I saw Aisha Harris Westman, who graduated from my school in 2015, currently performing with her theatre company, Handful of Bugs at Malthouse Theatre. She was in Hot House's studio ensemble, touring new Australian work nationally back in 2015. I remember taking students to see them perform in Sydney at ATYP's Wharf Theatre. Our James Fallon kids were in disbelief that one of their own was right there in front of them, telling their stories of what it meant to live regionally in this country. This is just my school, just a small snapshot. But what it shows you is that Hot House doesn't just ignite the spark for these young artists, they nurture the flame and keep the home fires burning so that these artists can return and strengthen their art-making practice. They know how to care for artists because they are artists, built by and for artists. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of this beloved institution. Please, please reconsider. We must invest in them so that they keep investing in us. For all the future artists of this region that don't have the privileges of wealth, geography and connections. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you for your presentation, and it was very moving, and thank you for everything you do for young people in our community. Teaching is a very honourable profession. First of all, I suppose you're talking about $35,000 as an investment in our youth within our community. If the Hot House wasn't to be there, do you see any other opportunities for young people to engage locally in these sorts of activities?
That we have such a passionate community of amateur theatre makers, and I don't want to discount what they provide. It's incredible. It blows my mind. I'm not really sure how Albury Wodonga Theatre Company put so many shows on, but what they are is a volunteer amateur company, and they're amazing for that. But the shows in and of themselves and the communities they create, that is the value of that, and inviting audiences in to watch them. they're not necessarily, they're not pathways that connect the border to the nation of art makers, and they're not there to show young people that they could have a career and any number of career pathways in this country when it comes to making art and making theatre. They do serve an incredible purpose though, of course.
Okay, that's it. Thanks, Annie. Okay, PF 3.3, Dougal Frederick, CM 14.3, Draft Financial Assistance Budget 26-27, speaking against the recommendation. Thank you. It's Frederick.
Thank you. You know my name, but I'm here in my capacity as an Albury ratepayer. On reflection, it's interesting, the last time I spoke to this council, it's a long time ago now, but I was the external auditor to this council. So that was quite some time ago. And in the interest of transparency, I do wish to say that I was actually, previously, I was a board member of Hothouse Theatre for probably 15 years or so. This was all pre-COVID. And also I am currently currently the treasurer of the Mama Art Foundation, which, as you know, provides support to your gallery. And I've been in that role for nearly 25 years. It was interesting in terms of reflecting over the time that that I've been involved in the local area and also at Hothouse. The connection with local government is quite interesting. I don't know whether many of you remember, but some time ago, a brilliant play called The Table of Knowledge was actually brought to this region by Hothouse. What it is, it was actually the play that was based on the true facts of the Wollongong Royal Commission into the Wollongong Council. And it was, I believe, it should be compulsory viewing for everybody involved in local government. And I'm saying that as an auditor, not any reflection on this particular council, but it is a fantastic thing. And the reason I'm mentioning it is that Hothouse was responsible for putting that play on here. It brought in council representatives from all around the local region. And I certainly remember the whole busload of councillors and staff who came down from Tumbarumba Shire to actually attend that performance here in Albury. So there is a direct connection between Hothouse and local government that we're talking about here. And certainly there was a wider audience that actually attended that. I guess Richard Roxburgh has already been mentioned, but it was only last Saturday night that I was actually in the audience, sitting there waiting in amongst a large crowd, actually waiting for Richard to come on and actually speak about his experiences in acting and also his childhood in Albury Wodonga. It was an interesting reflection because prior to that, I'd actually been to the fundraiser, which took place at Mama beforehand. Stuart asked a question about, was this a successful event? I don't know the exact amount, but Richard and his family were actually in Mama. Hothouse had actually paid a hiring fee to council to be there. We went over to the entertainment centre where the show was, and basically council obviously received the benefit of that, us being Hothouse being in that particular venue. I'm reflecting on it. I basically found it extremely difficult to reconcile. Here we were in terms of supporting council facilities, bringing in an internationally known actor into Albury, and knowing that it was a recommendation to sitting in front of council that the council saw no value in having Hothouse Theatre in their area. Council was not prepared to support the operations of Hothouse Theatre. I found that quite ironical, it was fair to say. And in doing so, I actually, reflecting afterwards, I had a look at basically the Albury's plan going forward to 2050. I think it's called the Council Towards Albury 2050 objectives, and just looked at how Hothouse stacked up against those particular objectives. The first one's cultural tourism and authentic visitor experiences. Well, I think Richard Roxburgh actually just demonstrated that in one easy situation. And Richard is only one of the actors and well-known people that actually come to Albury-Wodonga because of Hot House Theatre. And also in 2027, there is going to be this, it's a planned regional innovation symposium, which I haven't got the full detail of it. That's actually in the planning at this particular stage in 2027. So if it was successful with funding, there is big plans about what we're able to do into 2027. So I think it's pretty fair that Hot House gets a tick against that particular objective of council. The second one is socially connected and multicultural community. Hot House community programs directly target older and younger people. We mentioned something about the younger people just before, and refugee and migrant communities, including the Albury South Sudanese and the Congolese communities, with who Hot House has built sustainable relationships across a whole range of programs. I think we get a tick for that particular section as well. The third, recognition as a nationally significant community. Hot House, together with the fruit flies, I would believe among the primary reasons as to why Hot House is known on a national basis. And from Hot House's perspective, that is why, and as Sean mentioned, that is why we actually get the funding from 2 state governments, etc., is because of our national significance, if you like, overall. The fourth one is diverse and thriving arts and cultural life. I just put the question to council here now. If you took Hot House Theatre and its allied services that it provides, including the Month in the Country, which is another name of what happens out at the Wonga wetlands, what impact is that going to have on the cultural life in Albury-Wodonga? I would say it is very significant if you took Hot House Theatre out of this environment. So I guess the question to council is, in terms of looking at those 4 objectives that I've actually mentioned there, what is the benefit, or sorry, what benefit is there by providing no contribution to any of those objectives that Hot House provides? I suppose, so in conclusion, there's no question that the future of Hot House is on a precipice at this particular time. People can be talked about, etc., but there's no doubt we are reaching these crossroads as to where we are at this particular point in time. And when I travel around Australia, I've certainly taken great pride in the past where I've said to people, and it's had many conversations, that Albury-Wodonga sort of bats beyond its weight in terms of having two actual nationally significant organisations, being Hot House and the fruit flies. I don't believe there's any other regional centre that actually has 2 nationally recognised organisations in the cultural community, and I've always taken great pride in being able to say that when I've moved around the country. And so I really, as a ratepayer, I certainly implore this council to not be the council that actually draws the final curtain on Hot House just before it enters its 30th year. So that's my contribution this evening. Thank you. But before I leave, I would like to make sure, suggest to you that if those who haven't bought tickets to the Bard, Bark and the Bard, which is on at Hot House Theatre this weekend, if you haven't done so, do so quickly because it's a fantastic show. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frederick. There are questions, but the best show to watch is Grassroots.
Sorry?
Arcadia Waters. Grassroots is a good satire in relation to local government. Councillor Cameron.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Frederick. I don't want to paraphrase you, but I thought that you said at one juncture that council had decided that didn't want Hothouse or would no longer support Hothouse, or would words to that effect. I'm sorry? Saw no value. I don't think there is any person in this chamber that would say that. We all see value and we all think highly of the arts community and Hothouse Theatre. I've been accused because of my opposition to Mama that, you know, I'm some sort of Philistine that doesn't like art. I love art. I love art galleries. I love theatre. I like various forms of art, music and other. But my role as a councillor, in my view, is to address first the fundamentals. And the fundamentals, as you would know with your unique experience, are the ability of the city to provide the essential services and the core functions: roads, footpaths, infrastructure, water and sewage particularly, rubbish disposal and collection of rubbish. And we have such a financial challenge in front of us, as I alluded to earlier, that we're going to have to make some very bitter decisions in the next period. And it'll be a decision not for me, but for the 9 councillors as a group, what happens. But I fear that people will think that we're doing it out of some lack of respect or lack of appreciation for groups like the Hothouse Theatre. And I want you to know that that is not the motivation. That is not the motivation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I appreciate my background. I appreciate the importance of
Yes.
no, you need to be financially responsible. No doubt about that. I guess in the context of council, I guess the ask that we're making of a $35,000 contribution is extremely modest contribution to the benefit that is actually provided by this organisation to you.
Is he going to ask a question this time?
Yes.
Do you stage comedy programs, or because the mayor's available if you wish to branch into comedy? Can I ask you the 35,000, and this is this is what makes this so hard, right? Because it is a modest amount of money, really. But there are hundreds, and believe me, there are hundreds of modest requests for money that we have to examine. And can I ask you, of your total funding for the last 12 months, how much was Albury City's Council's roughly proportionate portion of that? So would it have been 10% or would it have been 20% or?
Look, I can't answer that specifically. I mean, I used to be the treasurer. I could have given you that information. No, yeah, sorry. I mean, yeah, no, we can provide information to you if you like, but I mean, you know, the turnover of the organisation, etc. I mean, it is a very small part of the actual amount turned over through the organisation, the 35,000, but it is a critical part at this stage where we're at, where we're having to reorganise the whole organisation. That's the situation. We're in a stage now where we need to develop, because of the financial circumstances, develop a new model that works into the future, that is not dependent on government funding. We would ideally love to be in a situation where we do not need the 35,000, but at this point in time, entering our 30th year, we desperately need the funding.
Did I hear correctly? I misunderstand from previous speakers, and I think yourself, that the removal of Albury City Council's portion of 35,000 would or may jeopardise securing further state government funding?
Correct, absolutely, because my understanding of what happens with state funding is, if you do not have support from the local community, there's no way known that they are going to, that's an excuse to not support the situation. So really, withdrawing $35,000 here is putting at risk $170,000 contribution from Macquarie Street.
Thank you.
Councillor Glickin.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, a question. Thank you very much for your presentation. You made reference to a busload of people coming from Tumbarumba, and you've also made reference to, I think it was the most recent performance that was at Albury City. So you made reference to those two and how it attracted people from outside. On average, over a year, what is the proportion of people who come to Albury Wodonga from outside to attend these performances? And I'm happy if you ask your friends at the back there. On the basis that there were the earlier speaker, Mr. Field, made comment about, or you, I think, may have made comment about people coming and using the hotels and the restaurants before and after. So I'd like to gauge an idea as to how many people are coming into town as opposed to they live here already because they may have been going out, if you see what I mean, if you could take my question.
Numbers, Narelle, do you have those numbers?
That's fine.
If you're talking just our catchment, so sort of within an hour drive, it would probably be about 20% of our audience come from that, so excluding Albury Wodonga. If you want to talk the sort of day trippers, so a bit further, that's probably somewhere between 5 and 10%.
5 and 10%. Yeah. So just for Jeff's benefit, it was not Albury Wodonga, but an hour outside was 20%, and further than the hour outside, the day trippers, Jeff, was 5%, 5 to 10%. Yeah.
Also, add just a personal anecdote on this. When I was pre-COVID, and COVID has changed a lot of things, but pre-COVID, I used to bring personally to come and see Hot House Theatre. I had 3 groups of friends that I would send the programming for the year to them. They would choose a program. These are people that were from Melbourne or from Bendigo or wherever, and they would come to Albury Wodonga, stay with me for the weekend. We'd have a night out doing something else. We would go to Hot House Theatre, and they would come to Albury Wodonga, and they were people that well outside the area of, you know, the local catchment. And I know there's other people who did similar things as well as that. I don't know whether that's actually captured in the numbers, but that's the sort of thing that happens. Because it's nationally renowned, people look at the program and say, we want to see that. And they'll see it about half the price coming here than what they will in Melbourne.
Councillor Bullivan. Councillor Bullivan, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Mac. To the presenter so far, thank you for your presentation. We've got one more to go. I'll go back a step. Now, coming from a sporting background and raising funds for clubs and things like that, other than grants, what external activities does Hot House do to raise funds for themselves, other than ticket sales and shows? Do you have any external, you know, groups that get in and pitch in and help the group?
Yeah, or certainly, if I can just make a comment on that, certainly the Richard Roxburgh was a fundraising event. And basically, philanthropy is, I'm personally a supporter of Hot House myself, and there's a lot of supporters that, you know, do actually, provide funds to Hot House. But there is a range of other things, and I'll need to get a bit of help. It depends on, you know, the particular shows that are happening at the time. In terms of, there is actually shows that we actually hopefully will be able to sell on to other places. That has happened in the past, in terms of, and we're talking about regional touring for into the future, and there are obviously things that we hope to you know, receive funds from, etc. So there is other income generation. It is not just waiting on funds. Obviously, ticket sales are only a small portion, really, because of the size of the theatre, and as what the figure was mentioned before, that we need to charge, you know, $160, $180 a ticket to actually, you know, fund our operations.
With philanthropic and or legacy donations is a very charitable and way to go within the community. But with times get hard in most things, it's I always find you find the depth within your own community, that they all pitch in and get what they need to do to get where they need to go. So, you know, it's really important that the group as a whole works particularly hard at getting that extra funds in and working as a community.
Absolutely. And look, in terms of when we look at what's happening in the future, what is hopefully being planned, there's going to be a far wider embrace of opportunities for additional funding to come on board. That is the plan. We've just got to get through the next 12 months to actually get that plan in operation for 2027.
Mr. Glacken.
Thank you. A follow-up really, Councillor Bullivant asked a question, Mr. Mayor, that I'd like to follow up. Thank you. A couple of times people have made reference to the cost of a ticket that they would have to charge if they were really charging a true price for a ticket. Notwithstanding the fact that you do get funding from New South Wales and Victoria, there's philanthropy. There has hitherto been 35,000 from Albury City Council, and you get a discount or whatever, you have an agreement with Wodonga City Council for your use of butter factory. Overall, do you actually break even or make money on your ticket sales over the year, or do you not? If you factor in the funding that you have, I understand. Do you actually make a little bit of money on the ticket sales on average over the year, or is it just break even?
Look, I'm going to have to sort of get advice on current things, but when I was treasurer at Hothouse for quite some period of time, I was for about 15 years, I was actually treasurer in the organisation. And basically for a particular show, depending on the show, depending a lot, if you had to bring in national actors, etc., for a performance, there is no way known that ticket sales were going to anywhere cover the cost of that particular production. And the funding that was coming from the granting bodies recognised that that was the case. That is why they provided some of the funding, because it was just not possible to, depending on the scale of the show. And going back probably 15 years ago, I can remember the investment the investment risk that Hothouse was taking to put on a particular show. There was over $100,000 was actually being invested to actually have a show, which then went on to a national stage. This is totally, that was risk money that was actually putting out there. And that is all cut back now because an organisation like Hothouse cannot afford to take that risk. And that's why we're looking at all sorts of different models into the future. Because so ticket sales, they all help, but they are a very small part of the operation of Hothouse.
Thank you. Just to finish up, Mr. Frederick, are we being led to believe that if Wodonga do not also fund, that it makes your position financially unpredictable?
Absolutely. That's my understanding that if Wodonga, and there are certainly conversations that are going to be held with Wodonga, they've already started. But basically, yes, what we are telling you here now is no different to what Wodonga is being told about the impact.
Yeah, but I understand. But if we were to provide any funding and Wodonga didn't, you're still in a precarious financial position, is what I'm saying.
Correct. Yes. I mean, yes, we are. Because the situation is, as totally as I understand it, that really this, and as I say, I'm not involved in the day-to-day figures of at this point in time. But the reality is that because of the change in model, and we'll hear more about this in a moment from the next speaker, but in terms of we are in this transition phase, we are quite confident that if we can get through the next 12 months, the future is a lot brighter for the organisation. We just haven't we're at this stage now because of a whole raft of things that have happened, that we've got to rebuild the organisation, and it needs a whole lot of different aspects to it. So if you like, the $35,000 that you're putting in is an investment in making sure that we make our 30th year and can actually make 40 or 50 years into the future.
But without the 35 from Wodonga, you won't be able to do that either. That's the
Well, I
point.
mean, in terms of, put it this way, we're at serious risk. That's all I can say is we're at serious risk.
Okay. Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. And essentially, I think it's pretty loud and clear that if you don't get investment from both sides of the border, it may be the final curtain closing on Hothouse, which would be disappointing. And I suppose I just want to follow on from Councillor Cameron's statement as well. We are in a really challenging situation, and I just want to know that, you know, I've been a staunch advocate and was hoping to see the financial assistance represent Hothouse, and it just wasn't the case this time. But you know, Monday evening isn't also the final call. It's an opportunity to go out to community consultation as well. And that's another really wonderful opportunity for the community to speak up and talk about what they want to see investment in as well. So thank you for your presentation this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fredericks. PF 3.4, Ray Richardson, CM 14.3, draft financial assistance budget 26-27, speaking against the recommendation. Thank you.
Your Worship, councillors, General Manager, I'm asking you to defer the decision to withdraw funding to Hothouse Theatre for the forthcoming financial year. I also wish to draw to your attention the calibre of Dr. Linda Hume AM, newly appointed as Creative Director of Hothouse Theatre, and the reputational damage to Albury Wodonga that will be incurred from a decision to withdraw support from that company. 10 years ago, I moved to Albury in large part because of the rich and diverse cultural activity in this region. Albury Wodonga is also a centre for sports, and people were very excited recently to welcome Pat Cash to town and take advantage of media opportunities. Yes, he is known around the world and won Wimbledon, but he lost a lot of matches too. His success rate was 62%. Dr. Linda Hume AM has a much better success rate. She is one of Australia's leading directors, acknowledged internationally for fresh interpretations of a wide variety of repertoire and progressive artistic leadership of Australian arts organisations and festivals, including Perth and Sydney festivals, Tasmania's Four Winds Festival, and 10 Days on the Island, as well as Opera Queensland. Dr. Hume has led 12 Australian international festivals between 2004 and 23, leaving a substantial legacy of global creations, bold and diverse new Australian works, projects forefronting contemporary First Nation cultures, progressive socially engaged practice, and deep community connections in regional and urban centres across Australia. She's won 2 Helpman Awards for Best Director and Best Production, and was Guest Creative Director for Opera Australia's Sydney Summer Season 2024. As a stage director, she regularly creates new theatre and opera productions in New Zealand, Europe, US and the UK, including major productions for such renowned international companies as Opera Philadelphia, Seattle Opera, Houston Grand Opera, Royal Swedish Opera Stockholm, Deutsche Staatsoper Berlin, Oldenburg Festival, Welsh National Opera and New Zealand Opera. These are the artistic equivalents of Grand Slams. An inability to recognise the calibre of this distinguished artist, willing to work in this community and dedicated to regional arts practice, by withdrawing the already small financial contribution it makes annually to Hothouse Theatre, will be, in the long run, very costly to the reputation of this council and community, nationally and internationally. I believe plans are in development, which have been referred to ensure that the Butter Factory Theatre can be open to greater community access while still being a home to Hothouse Theatre productions. These proposals will reduce the financial drain the building currently exerts on the company's operations, while providing an additional venue for community artistic creativity within this region. Council should seriously consider the options that are being prepared before making a final decision to cease funding. Should Hothouse be forced to close so soon to its 30th year, 30 years of contribution to the performing arts in this region, not only will an important component of Albury-Wodonga's performing arts matrix be lost, but so may the venue which could support local emerging artists and the development of new works well into the future. It may also result in dereliction of the house in the country because Hothouse is the main utiliser of that venue. I suggest Council should not be diminishing the capacity of the local cultural offerings, but be investing in the development and marketing of the border region as a cultural tourism destination. Further, almost any other community in the world would welcome an opportunity to benefit from the skills and expertise of such a renowned creative artist as Dr. Lindy Hume, AM, and not abruptly remove the welcome mat. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. One and a Tony Award then, Mr. Richardson.
Uh,
Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I will ask a question. My question, Mr. Richardson, is what is your relationship or role with Hothouse?
I am an ambassador, which means that I am prepared to stand up and speak on behalf of and promote the work of Hothouse. I'm not a paid employee. I did appear in a staged reading of a play directed by Annie Gifford 9 years ago for the 20th anniversary of the company. And I'm an enthusiastic attender of all sorts, all forms of performing and fine arts within the Albury-Wodonga and wider region.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to ask a question of the staff, noting that we won't be discussing this again after tonight, as in
We're
we don't.
discussing it on Monday.
Yes, but won't be discussing it prior to Monday. My question would be, can the staff provide us with information on what the annual running costs or upkeep, etc., what it costs us to have the farmhouse, or what it costs Albury City to have the farmhouse on an annual basis?
Yep.
Yep. And that doesn't need to be answered now if we could.
Ms. Evans-Barr, do you have it right now?
I'm very happy to take that on notice and circulate that tomorrow.
Well done. Councillor Callaghan, surprise.
Unnecessary, but I would just like to say, Mr. Richardson, what an exceptional ambassador you are for Hothouse. Thank you for your presentation this evening.
Is there a question?
No, there is not. Thank you.
It says question button.
Nonetheless, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. There are no further questions. Okay, that concludes our public forum, and thank you to all the speakers and providing their energy to the room. And I'm sure we could do with a bit more of that in our next discussions, but unfortunately, we'll be having them without you. So thanks again, and thanks for your wonderful presentations.